2017 has been a fantastic year for One Piece. The Whole Cake Island arc was kicked into full gear and has left us on the brink of the climactic finale set to play out in early 2018. But to celebrate the year that has been 2017, we are going to do a supersized top 5 this week. In fact, we are going to double it into a top 10, because a mere 5 moments simply does not do this year justice. The only criteria for this list is that the moment in the story took place in the manga during this year. So with that out of the way, let's begin. Welcome to the top 10 best moments of 2017. Number 10. Su Long Carrot. If you're anything like me, you've spent most of the Whole Cake Island arc wondering exactly why Carrot was there and when or even if she was actually going to do anything. Thankfully, right at the end of this year, Carrot pulled out a trump card of the Minx, transforming into her Su Long form. And you know what? It's pretty badass. In stark contrast to Oda's usual designs, Carrot turned into a sleek and elegant agent of chaos, almost instantaneously wrecking Charlotte Daifuku's ship and soldiers. It was so fantastic to finally see what Carrot is fully capable of, even if she is only able to perform this transformation on a full moon. But there is another layer to this moment. This transformation reveals the true power of the Minx and instantaneously generates an endless amount of hype for every other Mink we've seen in the series so far. This moment has me uncontrollably excited to see Minks like Inuarashi or Nekomamushi or even the lesser Minks like Beppo and Pecoms engage in a Su Long transformation. It's a beautiful moment that adds another layer to a whole cast of characters in the world, in addition to Carrot herself. And for that reason, it is in my opinion, one of the greatest moments of this year. Number 9. The creation of the Allied Forces. The meeting between the Straw Hats on Whole Cake Island and the Fire Tank Pirates was an event so cool that I had no idea how badly I wanted it until it actually happened. Up until this point, Capone had been built up as a brutal, villainous antithesis of Luffy, and it was difficult to see the two joining forces, unlike when Luffy formed an alliance with Trafalgar Law. But with a single, suave meeting, Luffy surprised his own crew and made a historic deal with Capone. And apart from Luffy immediately wanting to punch Capone in the face, it was a very civil affair. Everyone gathered in their best gangster formal wear and an assortment of refreshments were served to encourage the negotiation process. And the particular panel featuring all of the key players sitting around a coffee table is easily one of my favourite pieces of individual artworks this year. Seeing all of these characters together was also a very satisfying experience after following them separately for the first half of the arc. Here we had Luffy, Capone, Sanji, Jinbei, and of course the unforgettable gangster Gastino, all gathered together and ready to take on a Yonko in a magnificent moment. Number 8. Jinbei the Helmsman. So while Jinbei still isn't technically a confirmed member of the Straw Hat Pirates, this one particular moment has essentially solidified his spot in the crew in the eyes of the fanbase. In a desperate moment to escape Big Mom in the seas of Totland, Boss Jinbei guides the Thousand Sunny through a tidal wave and claims that in addition to having a good ship and a good navigator, a good helmsman will make the Sunny unstoppable. To put this into some perspective, we've been waiting for Jinbei to join the crew ever since, like, Fishman Island. And we always sort of knew that he would, but the bigger question was, what would his role be? And yeah, a lot of people did theorize that he may become the helmsman, but here we have the first confirmation to the readers of his future role aboard the ship. Just like Su Long Carrot, this moment is so much more than the simple action that was performed. It is a glimpse into the future, and I love everything I'm seeing in regards to Jinbei finally becoming part of the crew. Number 7. Brook vs. Big Mom. So in one of the very first chapters of 2017, we finally received a long-awaited moment as one of the Straw Hats confronted a Yonko directly for the very first time. And that boss of a Straw Hat just so happened to be Brook. Now, even though pretty much the entire confrontation happened off-screen, this was still a monumental moment and a phenomenal effort for Brook. As the Soul King, he appeared to cause Big Mom some unique trouble, even if he eventually was defeated by her. But what really makes this moment shine is Brook's determination to take on a power infinitely greater than his own. he engages in the conflict without hesitation, and even shows Big Mom some sass by referring to her as young lady, which in terms of age, she absolutely is compared to Brooke. And I think it's fair to say that up until Whole Cake Island, Brooke was a fairly underutilized member of the crew. He was just kind of there. But this fantastic moment of the year really solidified his place as one of the Straw Hat Pirates, and absolutely deserves a spot on this list. Number 6. Sanji and Luffy's reunion. So if we step back to the end of 2016, it ended on quite a dramatic note, with Sanji seemingly abandoning Luffy and the crew. And their reunion in 2017 would be no less dramatic, as Sanji finally admitted to Luffy, and more importantly himself, that he wanted to go home to the Sunny. This moment is almost on par with Robin's I want to live during Enies Lobby, or even Nami's help me during Arlong Park. And it certainly didn't come easily. Luffy quite literally had to punch it out of Sanji. But before all of that, the most touching moment to me is seeing Luffy eat the meal Sanji had prepared for him, which had gotten completely spoiled in the rain, and claiming that it was fantastic. Remember, previously Luffy had declared that he would not eat any food that wasn't prepared by Sanji. So even though the food probably tasted awful, to Luffy, it was the most delicious thing in the world, because it meant that he'd finally gotten Sanji back. Number 5. Big Mom's flashback. Yeah, look, this isn't a specific moment, but it's too huge not to include on the list, and if I included all of the individual moments from it on the list, well then it would probably take up more than half the list. This flashback is probably one of my favourites in the entire series for several reasons. Firstly, because it gave us background on one of the 4 emperors, and not only that, it made Big Mom quite a sympathetic character actually. She was just a child who wanted to have fun, live in peace, and yes, eat absolutely everything ever. But hunger demon aside, this flashback showed us that the only real reason why Big Mom turned into an antagonist was the fact that she had 2 absolutely horrible role models, one of which was Mother Caramel, who was involved in child trafficking, and the other was Streusen, who encouraged her to use her power for the sake of world domination. It made me feel for Charlotte Lin Lin, and that adds a lot of depth to her as a villain, potentially making her one of the best antagonists in the series. And of course we can't leave this point without mentioning that the majority of her story took place on the legendary Elbaf. This flashback gave us just enough of the island to intrigue, but not enough to dampen our excitement for when the crew do eventually visit Elbaf. Of course, we also saw or heard mentioned just about every giant seen so far in the series, so it was excellent world building and fantastic continuity. Number 4. Luffy punches Big Mom. Alright, so as much as I sympathized with her as part of the last moment, seeing Luffy use a Gear 4th punch against a Yonko is a series-defining moment, and something we've been waiting for ever since the word Yonko was first uttered at the end of the Enies Lobby arc. And in regards to this confrontation directly, we've been waiting ever since Luffy officially declared war on Big Mom during the Fishman Island arc. This culmination was a fantastic piece of art that really exuded the pure power on both sides. To say that Big Mom didn't easily take on the punch would be a huge lie, but it was still so incredibly satisfying to see Luffy fearlessly stand up to her, even in his critically tired state. Number 3. Pedro's sacrifice. Unlike his mink counterpart Carrot, Pedro had more than proved his worth during the Whole Cake Island arc. This jaguar was cunning, powerful, and looked absurdly sharp in a suit. So when he all of a sudden gave his own life, it was an unexpected and huge loss to the series. But as far as deaths go, this one was pretty epic. And while it didn't succeed in killing Perospero, it did break the Sunny free of his candy. Prior to his sacrifice, Pedro gave a fantastic speech to Carrot, which was juxtaposed with his actions in the manga, detailing just how important it is that the Straw Hats make it out of Whole Cake Island alive. And then he went out like an absolute boss, with his last words being good riddance. And while this was a heartbreaking loss, it served the story very well. It showed that you can't just waltz into the territory of a Yonko and expect to leave unscathed. Pedro's sacrifice was necessary, and the Jaguar knew that, even commenting that he knew that this was going to be his final voyage. Number 2. The collapse of Whole Cake Chateau. So the mystery plotline of the Tamatebako box had been planted many years ago at the end of Fishman Island, and despite having to wait so long for the payoff, boy did it pay off. The collapse of Whole Cake Chateau was a major blow to the Big Mom pirates, and if not for Strussen's quick thinking, it may have resulted in the deaths of even her strongest crew members, possibly even Big Mom herself, who knows. And one of my favourite moments within this moment was Tamago becoming more and more askew until he finally realised that the chateau was collapsing. But it was the sheer scale of this event that really solidifies its spot on this list. Whole Cake Chateau is a gigantic building, and apart from the destruction of entire islands such as the Ennis Lobby incident, I honestly can't think of a time where damage of this scale was caused in the series. It was a grand event in the world, and something that is going to be attributed to Luffy and Capone for a very long time to come. Number 1. Charlotte Katakuri. Alright, so this isn't exactly a single moment either, but like with the Big Mom flashback, if I'd put in all of the individual Katakuri moments, they would probably take up more than half the list. But I'd also like to point out that before the year 2017, Charlotte Katakuri was completely unknown to the series, and it is crazy to think that within a single year a new character has had such an impact on the story. Not only does he have the highest bounty known to date, sitting at just over 1 billion berries, I'll say that again, 1 billion berries, but he is pretty much a superior Luffy in every way, shape and form. Their Devil Fruit abilities are so similar that it makes every panel of their fights an absolute delight to look upon. And I mean, Katakuri's actual character design is also pretty incredible to begin with. It's very rare for Oda to create someone so outright aesthetically awesome, although he did rectify that when he showed us Katakuri's true face, which I actually thought was pretty hilarious and doesn't ruin the character at all. But the best part about Katakuri has to do with him showing us the potential of the future. What Katakuri shows us is what Luffy could be if he were to awaken his Devil Fruit and upgrade his Haki. Their fight, which is still currently ongoing, is teaching Luffy more and more with every second that passes. And by the time Luffy comes out of this arc, I expect him to be significantly upgraded. And it's all thanks to Charlotte Katakuri. And that about does it for the top 10 moments of 2017. It's been a huge year, but I believe that we're in for an even bigger one in 2018. If you enjoyed this video, then feel free to like, favorite or subscribe, and please do comment with your favorite moments of 2017.